morning, Yankees fans. Welcome to the Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm Rob. I'm here with Donald, and we're waiting on the arrival of Bobby Tats and his computer. It's restarting, so he will be here sooner or later. Don't worry, Uncle Tats is coming. But while we await his arrival, we have another series win to talk about. The New York Yankees taking 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians out there in Ohio, Stanky, Ohio. And what's up to 4Train? Thank you for popping in. Good to see you. So, yesterday was a funky game. Going into the game, we were very questionable about the lineup. We're wondering why DJ was out. Turns out he's dealing with a little bit of a quad. They don't want to rush anything, or they want to be as cautious as possible. What's up to Damien as well in the chat? DJ didn't play, and we saw Higgy in the lineup. We saw the guys that we didn't want to see, and it was Higgy that came up with the big hit, and it was once again Franchy Cordero coming through, and then Ozzie in the ninth inning. So overall, before we get to the pitching side of it, what did you think about the game yesterday, Donald?
It was a bizarre game, man. It's one of the weirder games I've probably seen. There's a lot happened with the umpire, Aaron Boone, umpire getting hit in the head. We got possibility that maybe the Yankees would protest the game at one point. There was a whole lot of things that happened. It was just one of the weird games that you don't see it often. Like, it's just weird. There's a lot to unpack. Like, for instance, Aaron Hicks having exactly the same type of plays almost every single ball put in play in one inning. I've never seen that before. We're going to get more onto him very soon. Trust me. But weird game. But what I will say is the fact that the Yankees overcame a lot of adversity, often self-imposed, partly imposed by the umpires. They overcame that adversity to win is probably a very, very good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say what's up to Miguel and to LI and FJ, who just popped in the chat. Thank you for showing up. And Bobby Tats is here. Better late than never, Uncle Tats. It's good to see you. The laptop has been restarted. Bobby Tats is here. So, Tats, since you just joined us, we were just talking about the weirdness that was yesterday. Donald mentioned the umpiring. He got hit with the ball. They had that strange challenge. What were your overall thoughts of the game yesterday?
It really was a wacky game. It was right from the start. And the only thing I kept going through my head was, if only now the aggravation from Boone, right, that we saw in that first inning. That's how we feel every time that idiot is in center field. So now he knows how we feel. Just pissed off, frustrated, and it's just not fair that we have to see that guy playing in the outfield every day. So now Boone knows our frustration.
Yeah, if we want to take this time to start with, I guess, the never-ending elephant in the room, Aaron Hicks, once again showing his ugly head out there, ugly face in center field. Misplays the first ball of the game, and then he makes the next play he makes a good catch. I'm like, can the ball stop going right to him? Every single play went right to Aaron Hicks, and then the ending of the inning, he doesn't make the catch, and that's when we had the weird challenge that shouldn't have been a challenge and all that stuff. But, I mean, when is enough going to be enough? When are we going to finally stop seeing him in center field, in left field, on this team in general? I think it's apparent now that he's just not a good outfielder, and I don't know what they keep doing. Donald, I know you're chomping at the bit to rip on him again, so the floor is yours.
It's so funny because you're saying, why does the ball keep finding him? It kind of reminds me of when I was plunked down at right field, and I couldn't play right field worth a shit, right? And every single ball went my way. And I was floundering around like Aaron Hicks, actually. So I could relate to Aaron Hicks' pain. But here's the difference. I suck. And he sucks, and he gets paid $10 million to do that. So, per year, I should add. No, he is. I'm going to say this now. Aaron Hicks is a war criminal. He is a freaking war criminal in center field. He is so freaking bad is unreal. It is unreal how you could be so bad at your profession, so bad at your job, lack so much professionalism, lack so much athleticism, and you are out there in center field playing for the New York Yankees. It defies belief. And so that's why I actually take more from Aaron Hicks dropping the ball multiple times than I do about the umpires. At the end of the day, the umpires got the decision right. Whether you like it or not, whether you like the fact that they clearly rewrote the rules in order to cover their asses, right? I'm not going to say to favor the Guardian, but it will cover their own asses because I think they probably saw that in replay and went, oh shit, MLB are going to kick my ass afterwards. Might as well right this wrong. So whether you like that or not, I'm not saying as Yankee fans we should like that because it is clearly against the rules. You've got 15 seconds to challenge. If you don't challenge, then you can't just make up challenge on the go. However, the real story is Aaron Hicks. Because none of this would have happened. We would have been in this scenario had he actually caught the ball. If he caught the ball, the umpires would have needed to look to find a way of challenging it and changing it. So that's the reality, people. And so he is a war criminal. He absolutely is. Aaron Hicks is a disgrace. He's a disgrace of an athlete. A disgrace of a Yankee. I could go as far as to say he's probably the worst Yankee I've ever seen. I think he beats Headley. I think he beats Jarrett Wright. And I think he beats Carl Pavano because he's been here for so long and he's so bad. You know, you see for maybe a year, a bit here or there. He's had like 5 years and he sucked every single one of them. So I'm done with Aaron Hicks. He should never play the outfield. He is a joke. He's a disgrace. Absolute abomination. Doesn't cover the fact that the umpires clearly changed the rules to benefit themselves. However, the real story is Aaron Hicks, I'm afraid. So again, I'm not going to go overboard about the umpires who actually ended up making the right decision.
No, I think we should go overboard because they can't circumvent the rules because of who the home team is. I think that's what it was. If that was never aired, if they had never shown that quick on the Jumbotron, because that's when the whole crowd went into an uproar because everybody was able to see that it was the wrong call, right? And even though they did get it right, let's not mistake that part of it. We're not arguing because we they screwed up the call. They made the mistake. It was corrected, but it was the way they went about it. That's the problem. You can't, you can't stall and feed off. I think Boone's reaction to the whole thing was perfect. All right. It's, when he had said, he goes, look, they got the call right, but they decided to give the review to Cleveland because of the crowd's reaction. And I think that's what happened. Because everybody was off the field. So it's not like, they have the 15 seconds. Is 15 seconds too short? Do you give it, do you give it 30 seconds? Do you double the time on it for them to review? But you want to also speed up the game. So make up your mind. Do you want to speed up the game or do you want to get it right? So
FJ, don't feel sad for Aaron Hicks. He's been paid $50 million to be bad. I don't think he feels that bad, and neither should you. I feel bad having to watch it, and so should you.
It was just a funky play. They don't know their own rules, all these different rule changes. Aaron Boone had every right to be upset because of how late the challenge was, but we can't ignore the fact that the game continued. They overturned the call, so we can't control that. And it was because of Aaron Hicks not being able to play the position of center field that the Guardians were able to get a quick couple of runs on the board. Because if he makes that first play, let's forget about the last play because that was a tough play, as not a lot tougher than the first one. He dropped the first one. He just simply dropped the first play. If that doesn't happen, Clark Schmidt has a very clean inning. And we're probably not even talking about that play at the end of the inning. So it all comes back to Aaron Hicks. So at what point do the Yankees say enough is enough? And we keep talking about it. We're going to get Donaldson back. We're going to get Bader back. Who are the two roster moves for those two players? It can't be Cordero. it's probably going to be Calhoun, and then there's another player. It's either IKF or it's Aaron Hicks. Someone's got to go. And at least with IKF, you got some defense because he showed it this series. Aaron Hicks hasn't shown you anything. He's been outplayed by two different players that have been here for 5 games. It's ridiculous. Calhoun's already been more productive than him, and he's had like 6 at bats. So there's no reason to keep Aaron Hicks on this roster. And we do this every single day. Every time he's out there, he had 2 hits the other day, and we're like, we don't even want to give him credit because he's going to do something the very next day to make us angry again. And that's exactly what happened. That's why none of us wanted to give him credit yesterday for his 2-hit performance, because we're like, if he's playing, something's going to go wrong. And in the very first inning, something went wrong. So it's another case, the never-ending story of Aaron Hicks in a Yankee uniform that I hope has an end very, very soon.
I mean, but what does it say about Hicks overall when we can sit here and we can say that Oswaldo Cabrera and IKF have given us less stressful defensive plays in the outfield than the guy that's been playing outfield his whole career? You have 2 infielders that were plucked into the outfield just to give them somewhere to play, and they've stepped up. I mean, not Gold Glove. Let's not mistake that part. But they've actually given us less reason to stress over if the ball is hit to them than if it's hit to Hicks. That's how bad his guy is.
He's terrible. He's terrible. And yes, they do have to ride the Franchy wave as much as possible. I don't want to ignore these comments here because they're coming in crazy. Let's see what we got here. FJ bringing something up. This time they were right. Hicks trapped the ball, but the first time the umps do this, get it wrong, they will become Don Deckinger. I don't know. Sounds like an old person. Tats, you know who that is?
Nah, it doesn't even ring a bell.
He's been around for everybody in baseball. Yeah. You have to remind us about that, FJ. Who exactly is that? But no, you bring up a great point about IKF and Cabrera. They're not outfielders. IKF did not play outfield until the spring, and Cabrera did not play outfield until last year in AAA, and they're both better. And Aaron Hicks has been here since 2018, and there was one point, 1 year, or maybe a year and a half, because he was good the first half of 2017, and then got hurt, lost his spot because of the injury. Came back in 2018, had a really good year, got the extension. So since then, he's either hurt or he's not playing well. And it's been a never-ending story for 4 straight years. I mean, it's only at this point you're just going to pay him 3 more years, $30 million in total to not play for you. I think that's a price they might have to pay because he's not offering you anything. If you're not even pinch hitting him and you're going with IKF, because even your manager says, I don't want to walk in this situation. Yeah. He's saying, I don't believe Aaron Hicks is going to get a hit here. He trusted IKF more to get a hit than Aaron Hicks. And Aaron Hicks is a $10 million player. I mean, that's the answer right there. He needs to go. I'm sick of seeing him out there. But let's not talk too much about him because the Yankees did win yesterday. Yes. They did win another series. We're 8-4, 4-0 in series play in total. This is a very good start. If you would have told me 12 games into the season, the Yankees would have 8 wins and they would have won some games that you didn't think they would win. I didn't think they were going to win yesterday. I thought it was getting off to a terrible start. Yeah. Clark Schmidt kind of doubled down a little bit, looked better, but not great still. Still a lot of things to work on. And the bullpen did its job, and then we got some big hits late. So let's talk about the positives. Franchy Cordero, another home run. Is he this year's Matt Carpenter, or is it still too early to tell?
I mean, Carpenter came out like a fire wind also, and we were all we jumped right on Carpenter's tails and was psyched up about it. Franchy's giving us the same thing this year. I think it's a very good comparison. I think it's a fair comparison on top of that. What's your take on Franchy and the Carpenter comparison, Dom?
I love Franchy Cordero. Yeah. He's freaking awesome, man. I liked the deal at the time. I thought it was a very smart pickup. I think we took advantage of the fact that Baltimore oddly released him, considering the spring that he had, where he had an OPS well into the thousands, and he had multiple home runs, and he was batting over 400 in spring. He was killing it. What I understand from the guest telecast is that actually the Yankees tried to sign him prior to him going to Baltimore. But he turned down the Yankees because he thought that he'd get more playing time in Baltimore. And then it turned out that he got released by Baltimore, and the Yankees took advantage again. So the Yankees have had interest in him for a while. This is a guy that has power, raw power, a really good power lefty swing, but he hasn't been able to put it all together until now. And you're seeing it all come together. And he's got such a nice, smooth, powerful stroke from the left side that he needs to be in every day while we ride this hot streak. And this is what I'm saying, man. Hot exists. So does cold, and he's hot right now. And you got to ride that hot hand while he's on fire. Because, I mean, the streak that he's on, I mean, we've not seen in a while. Like, this is a crazy streak of not seen in a while in terms of an unheralded guy that just is just dominating and has more numbers than Judge and Stanton. I mean, that's just wild to me. And they're both having great years, Judge and Stanton, but Cordero is on another plateau right now. So it's pretty impressive what they're doing, what he's doing. And I got to give him credit for it, and I got to give the Yankees credit for it. It was a very smart pickup, astute pickup for cheap as well. Especially considering, we were talking about they need a left fielder, they need an outfielder, they need someone from the left side, and the prices that were going around wasn't obviously mutually beneficial. And here's Cordero available for nothing, and freaking awesome pickup.
Yep. I mean, we go back to the offseason. I said I would have been fine if they had just brought in a bunch of minor league contract guys and had them battle it out, and they cut Aaron Hicks. That would have been, to me, that would have been more productive, because out of Calhoun, Ortega, and let's say they did bring in Cordero and then Cabrera, you would have had a 4-person competition for one spot. Someone's going to take that spot, and it ended up being none of them, actually. Well, Cabrera technically, but then they picked up Cordero to replace Calhoun and Florial eventually. So it's worked out, and this is why baseball is so interesting, because when we looked at the Cordero signing, it was just like, who is this? Like, why? He's not played well. He doesn't play defense. And you're like, well, maybe he can provide some pop until we get Bader back. Now, even though we're only 12 games in, he's the guy you can't cut. You can't cut him when Bader comes back, because he has far exceeded expectations. If you let him go, it's going to be a terrible decision. So it's great that he's playing so well, because we needed that. It was exactly what we needed, more pop from the left side of the plate. That's why I was heavy on Conforto despite his injuries. I'm like, he can provide you potentially 25 home runs from the left side. Not for $18 million a year, but now you get Cordero, who can play, I guess, a decent enough outfield that you can get the job done. Considering the alternative was Aaron Hicks, I think we're going to take Franchy Cordero every day of the week. So now, with the way the pace he's on, he could hit you 25 home runs, maybe even get to 30. I don't want to get too crazy, but there's a 20 to 25 home run potential if he plays as much as possible. And he's going to hit a cold streak, and when that happens, then you sit him. But for now, ride the hot wave until it goes cold.
They're riding the hot hand right now, and that's what they should be doing. They should be riding that hot hand as long as they can until he shows that he's kind of lost a little bit of the momentum, because he has been our spark. Like Ron, like you pointed out, it was yesterday, the other day. When you get these players that you're not expecting to get that big hit, you can't always rely on your, Judge, Rizzo, and Stanton all the time. There's got to be somebody else that could be a threat, that could be a little further down the lineup, and that's what Franchy has provided. And that's what maybe this is a formula that the Yankees have been missing, is that bat. They tried it with Carpenter. Unfortunately, going into the playoffs, he was coming back from an injury in the second round, so he really didn't have the at-bats to really get him going again. So I don't think it's fair to Carpenter to say that he fizzled out when we needed him. It was the injury just delayed him. He was just off on his bat speed. So he wasn't able to connect for a lot of hits that he would have in the middle of the season like he was. But Franchy's that guy that, these are those players that the Yankees grab that give you that where the hell did he come from, mentality. And I'm enjoying every minute of it, and I'll enjoy it as long as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was one of those terrible, not terrible. It was one of those terribly low risk. Like the risk was so low. Like you're like if this guy strikes out 15 at bats, you're not going to care because once Bader's back, he's gone. But the reward has been so high right now that even though we're only 12 games in, and yeah, it might be a little too early to judge him, no one expected this. No one saw this coming because he wasn't a good hitter throughout his entire career. And you're like, well, if Baltimore let him go, what is he going to give for us? Well, he's been our most clutch hitter.
Yeah.
We're 12 games in and we don't win yesterday without him. We probably don't win a couple of the games against Baltimore without him. So, yeah, we're only 12 games in, but we're seeing the way people are reacting to Tampa Bay start. Without Franchy Cordero, we might be 7 or 8 games back in the AL East already. So you got to give the guy respect where it's deserved. And he deserves a lot of the respect right now. And he lengthens the lineup, even if he hits a cold streak, which he probably will. We now have a lefty that we so desperately need. Now Aaron Boone can put that third, sometimes even fourth lefty in the lineup, even when Harrison Bader's back. Guess what? Cordero can play right or left, and you can have Stanton DH, or you can do one or the other, and you'll have 3 lefties with him, Cabrera, and Rizzo, and the lineup is a lot more balanced with 3 lefties instead of just 2.
How do you see the outfield alignment when Bader comes back? Hopefully sooner rather than later. How do you see it with Oswaldo, who's a great Oz, is my new nickname for him. You got him probably in left field. He's been playing very good left field. He's been hitting the cover off the ball. Won this game yesterday. Then you've got Franchy, Bader, Judge, and Stanton. How would you be able to get all 4 in the same lineup?
You get rid of you get rid of we all know who. That's the first move.
No. My question is, how do you see the outfield alignment, and how would you be able to get them all on the same team?
I think if it comes between Cordero and Cabrera, whoever's playing hot. I think you keep between on left field. If Oswaldo's picking it up, you let Oswaldo play, or vice versa. And then you have Bader in center, and you have Judge and Stanton, sharing right field duties, and then one guy gets the DH spot.
Well, Aaron Judge is playing most days in right field or center. I mean, the thing is with Harrison Bader is they could afford to sit him on occasion against right-handed pitching because I'm not too sure about his bat. I know he had a really good postseason. And you're like, I know he's going to play more often than not, obviously, because he's our best option in center field.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be opposed if, even when he's back, if they say, okay, Cabrera's going to be in left, Judge is in center, and Cordero's in right, just to keep his bat out there. Other than that, he's your big pop guy off the bench because it helps the bench out as well. But that is an interesting situation. I almost said scenario, combined 2 words there. But you have to find playing time because you need Stanton's bat, and right now you need Cordero's bat. So if in the next month Cordero goes cold, you're not going to have to worry too much about it, but you know that he still provides you that potential home run that you don't want to have him sit on the bench too long because then it's going to go ice cold and you're going to lose all that excitement you had at the first half of the season, first half of this month. So I know who they can get rid of, but there really is no way to play them every single day altogether unless you put Cabrera at third. But then where does DJ play? And then where does Torres play? And if you put Cabrera at shortstop, then you're taking Volpe out. Yep. So you run into a problem there. Can Cabrera catch? I mean, we've talked about that as an option. If Ozzie wants to start playing catcher, I wouldn't trust that. But there really is no way to get them all in there. So you're going to see a lot of that Aaron Boone rotation, and that's really the only way they can get these guys equal playing time.
Yeah, so you're looking at Bader in center field. Judge will be in right. Left field, I mean, it's between Franchy and Ozzie.
Yeah.
Left field and I guess Stan would DH in that scenario. But then you could find a way of getting maybe Ozzie in left, Cordero with DH, maybe Stan in right, Judge in center. That means Bader's out. So I don't know how they're going to quite work that around. I think their ideal situation is for the Great Odds to be more of a rover, similar to DJ LeMahieu. But then, what does that mean for IKF? And I mean, obviously, we're not talking about the war criminal either. So, where he's going to fit in all this? So, there's a lot of moving pieces still to come. But what I will say is, it was really good is the fact that the Yankees overcame a lot of adversity yesterday, and they still won. And that's a great sign. They've won every single series so far. Ask any more than that. Really, really impressive.
They have to keep it rolling, and I think the bullpen did a really good job. The ninth inning was very shaky, though. I'm glad that Holmes was able to get through it, but it was like you were almost waiting for it, because the way the game started, it was one of those. This is just nothing is gonna go our way today. So. But good for Holmes. He's four save attempts and he's got 4 saves. So he's been fine as the closer.
I wouldn't say fine. I mean, yesterday he nearly gave us a heart attack. That was
his first outing was absolutely.
Yeah. King looked fantastic though yesterday. Michael King looked really good.
So I'm genuinely worried for Holmes. I don't think Holmes throws enough strikes to be our closer. I really don't.
I don't think we have a closer right now because King, they want him in that multiple inning role, so they're not going to give it to him. He's probably your best option at full strength. I don't trust Marinaccio yet. Peralta's their only lefty, so you really can't afford to have him be the closer. I mean, maybe Canely when he's back, but there's such a question mark with him because you don't know what he's going to be when he comes back. So we really don't have a closer, and it's only
a problem. It will be a problem, as we saw yesterday, because you walk the bases loaded, and the only pitch that he could throw within like a foot from the strike zone was in fact his slider. And thank God that slider was working because he managed to get Rosario to chase a couple times, and it was beautifully located slider just outside the zone, but enough movement that it got them off guard. But that was the only pitch he could locate. Every other pitch was a joke. Bad, hanging sinkers, fastballs he couldn't locate. I just don't think he throws enough strikes in order to be reliably a closer. He might have the best stuff, but I think Wandy Peralta is our closer. Yes, he just throws strikes easily, and I much prefer that. Like I don't have major agita watching Wandy Peralta pitch. I do when I watch Clay Holmes pitch. Because I don't know one day to the next whether Clay Holmes is going to locate his pitches.
No, I just said I wanted Wandy as our closer, but being our only lefty, you can't lock him into that 1 inning. You're going to need him, to be a little fluid in the 7th, 8th, and 9th spot. So it really, if they're able to, like FJ says, if he wasn't our only lefty, he'd be our closer because he's the only one I would trust right now.
Yeah.
I think Holmes will be. I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's working his way back to being the Holmes that we saw in the first half of the year. There are days that he's not going to have his best command. We saw that yesterday. I'm not saying when I said that Holmes will be fine, or he's been fine. He hasn't. When you're able to get into some of these situations, you're not blowing the game. You may not have your best stuff, but at least you're not losing your focus. And you're still trying to get, you're not just throwing in the towel going, it's not my night.
Well, the very first outing that he had this year, he completely.
No, his first outing was terrible. No, that's undefendable.
Right, and then this outing yesterday was terrible too. So, half his outings so far have been really bad. So I'm not sure what you're seeing necessarily to give you faith that he's going to be okay. What I'm seeing is the first half of last year he was awesome, but since then he hasn't been.
Yeah, he had a great postseason, and then so far, we even saw it in the spring. He was kind of like up and down. I don't trust him in the 9th. I would trust him in the 8th.
Yeah,
I think he's got the stuff to be probably the best setup man. But I just feel like recently, or going back to the second half of last year, when he gets to the 9th inning, he just kind of tenses up, and everything just starts missing because his first 2 at-bats were fine. You're like, okay, Clay Holmes is getting it going, and then he just lost the zone. And like you mentioned, all of his sinkers, they weren't sinking, they were floating all the way almost to the backstop, being like a Aroldis Chapman's back, just pitching from the right side of the plate or on the mound. It was weird. And I think you're looking at Loaizaga being hurt. I mean, I still think he has the stuff to be a really good closer, but he's been very up and down recently, inconsistent. So we don't have one. We have a bunch of really good arms that could be a closer. I think over time, Marinaccio probably becomes that guy, but he's not very trustworthy yet either. He had a little kind of a wild day yesterday, even though he had a clean inning, but I don't know. It's something that they're going to have to figure out, and I think that's why right now it's Holmes because he has the experience from last year, but they might have to look to get somebody potentially at the deadline just to figure that out. Maybe they can call up a Greg Weiser. I don't know, but I don't think he's a closer either because he was funky when he was up here last year, even though he was solid. I don't know who it is. They have a bunch of good arms, but no closer.
It's really strange to assess Clay Holmes because, like, for instance, Aroldis Chapman, you knew within 2 pitches whether he had it that day or not, right? You knew whether he was going to be unhittable or he was going to get his ass completely beat in, right? You knew it within 2 pitches with Aroldis Chapman. With Holmes, you don't know. With Holmes, you really just don't know. Because, to Rob's point, he could be excellent for the first 2 outs and then completely lose the strike zone. And when he loses the strike zone, he loses the strike zone for the next 10 pitches. And it reminds me of that outing against the Royals, which I went to. It was like last August or something like that. And he was fine for the first couple of batters, and then he lost the strike zone, never found it again, and then gave up the 3-run home run we lost. And he's just one of those guys that if he loses the strike zone, he doesn't find it again. I can't trust that as a closer.
No, as much as I think Holmes can be a reliable closer, it's not reliable because we don't have. I guess reliable could be used. I'm not going to put him in that category as a lockdown closer. I think that would be, that can't be said because he's not a lockdown, like you just pointed out. He'll get the first 2 guys out, and then it'll take him a few pitches to refine the strike zone. So that's not a lockdown closer. But I feel like he has the confidence in himself that he can get the job done, even if he puts himself in a jam.
Oh, he's got the stuff. We saw it yesterday. He was 2-2, bases loaded, 2 outs, and threw that beautiful slider, which ended up being his best pitch in like 3 at-bats. That's what Donald mentioned earlier. So he has the stuff to find it at the most random times that can get you out of the jam, but the problem is he puts himself into those jams. One bad pitch, and it could have been a walk-off grand slam or a walk-off 2-run double or whatever it might have been. So he has the stuff to be locked down, but he hasn't shown it since pre-All-Star break last year, and that's a bit concerning. But there is still plenty of time to figure it out for him to find it and hopefully keep that going from now until the end of the season because he's probably the most likely to be the closer.
I like Baltimore's closer. Can we get him?
Batista's filthy.
You need that lockdown guy. Plenty of teams have it. We feel like we could have it. But we just don't know who the guy is that's going to step up. If we had another lefty, maybe they shouldn't have let Licky go. Then maybe Wandy could have that role.
Yeah. Go and get another lefty out of the bullpen and move Wandy to closer, and I'd be fine with it. Because I think you're right. I think Holmes is an excellent setup, man. That filthy slider, filthy sinker, perfect. But closer, I just don't see. In order to avoid having major aggro as you're watching him.
No, it's if he's still having these issues, midway through, midway through by the end of the month, if he's still having these issues, my opinion may change. But from where I'm judging him from right now, I'm not ready to just give up on him as a closer. And that that may not happen. When we turn over to May 1st, it may be like, this guy is just not it. And I will, I have no problems, correcting myself. I've been wrong on a lot of players. Holmes might be one of them.
There's still plenty of time to figure it out, though. He's had 2 bad outings that didn't cost us a game yet. So that's at least a plus. And he's had 2 good outings. So he's batting 500, I guess, if you want to put it like that in baseball terms. But he has to be better. If you're going to win games in October, especially one-run games against really good teams like Cleveland, because we could very well see them again in October, more times than not, you're not winning that game in that situation. You might win it in April, but you're probably not winning it in October. So I know we got a long ways to go and a lot can happen between April and October, but just have to keep that in mind because we have lost a lot of games in that same exact scenario where we didn't have a good closer, Roldis Chapman, and it cost us games in October.
Yeah, I think overall Britton was more reliable as a closer than Chapman, and Britton was hurt a lot.
Britton was really good in 2020, really good, and then Chapman came back and it screwed everything up. And then Britton got hurt in 2021, and we'll never forget that Field of Dreams game.
I wish we didn't trade Andrew Miller.
Yeah, that trade was so interesting because it got us Clint Frazier. The Andrew Miller trade could have turned into getting Garrett Cole 2 years earlier. And think about it. And ended up getting us James Paxton as well because we traded Sheffield for him. But Miller was incredible. When we had Miller, Betances, and even the 1 year that Chapman was untouchable in 2016, that bullpen was electric. And then we didn't make the playoffs that year.
Which is insane. It was only a 5-inning game because those guys were going to cover you for the whole game. We just needed a starter that could pitch you 5 innings.
Yep. Well, let's talk about Anthony Volpe because even though he only had 1 hit in the leadoff spot, he didn't strike out. And I think it's the first time this year he did not strike out in a game. What do you think about Volpe's leadoff double? And do you think maybe they should start putting him in the leadoff spot a little bit more with that Judge protection behind him? I think it can help him out.
I think we said it yesterday. I think we saw it in spring training when he had one of the big guys behind him. That's where he had his best numbers in the spring. Maybe now that they got a couple of weeks of experience for him, I think maybe we're going to see him a lot more in the top of the lineup. It's only been 1 game where he's your leadoff hitter, so I still want to see another handful of games like that to see if that's really where he's going to be able to capitalize on his talents.
I like that he's driving the ball. We saw it in that triple that he hit the other day that he is starting to drive the ball now. Even in the game where they lost the other day, he hit a shot that went right to the wall. That he is starting to drive the ball now, and you saw that yesterday. He's driving the ball with more authority. I still kind of like him in the 9 hole. I think it takes the pressure off him. But I think that you're starting to see what he's got, man. He's been good defensively. And when you're starting to look at it, his OPS and stuff like that is much better than Aaron Hicks. He's driving the ball. He's getting better power. He's starting to get extra base hits. So he's got it in his bag. And it's going to get better for him. The sky's the limit with Volpe. So I'm very happy for him. He just takes time, man. He's getting more comfortable.
Yeah, and I think when DJ comes back from his quad tightness, whatever he's dealing with, that could be today, it could be tomorrow. They don't want to take him out of that leadoff spot, but you might have to experiment with something. Maybe you keep Volpe, Judge, Rizzo as the top 3, Stanton, Cordero. Then you got Torres. All of a sudden, if you have like DJ batting 7th, you know how much deeper that lineup might look. I know it's 1 game, but I think tonight you'll see Volpe in the leadoff spot again because they might just want to keep DJ until he's 100%. But if he starts hitting the ball a little bit better at the leadoff spot, you might have to keep him there because that having Aaron Judge, Rizzo, and Stanton behind him could scare pitchers and be like, I can't throw. They might make a mistake and be like, I can either walk this guy. It's the same thing. That's why DJ's so good in that leadoff spot because of who's behind him. Yeah. So if you think about it, it could help out Volpe. I thought eventually he would get that leadoff spot. It's a lot sooner than I thought, but we'll see if he starts hitting the ball better. I think he's seen the ball better because that's where he was in the spring, and he was crushing it no matter who he faced, major league pitching, minor league pitching. He was so comfortable in that leadoff spot that maybe going to the 9-hole kind of messed with his psyche a little bit. So now pitchers might have to be aware. If I lose Volpe, I'm going to have to pitch to Judge with a guy on base, and more times than not, Judge is going to make you pay. And if he doesn't, then Rizzo might, and if he doesn't, then Stanton might. So, and then you can't take away Volpe's speed. That's a prototypical leadoff hitter. You can turn a single or a walk into a double in the blink of an eye. And we've seen that already with these big old bases. Teams are stealing bases like crazy, and Anthony Volpe and the Yankees are doing it as well. There's a lot of length to that lineup if you maybe make that switch with Volpe and LeMahieu, and you maybe put LeMahieu in that 7 spot.
Yeah, TCX, are we concerned about DJ at this point in the season being injured again? It's with DJ, it really gets tricky. I think that it's early in the season, so I don't think it's going to be, obviously it's not a season-long issue, that we can see right now. But I just think I don't think it's I don't think it's a bad injury or a sprain or strain, whatever they classify it as. But it's one of those, I think that before it gets to that point where it's an official IL stint, I think they're going to give him some more rest days over the next week.
It's a concern. I'm not gonna lie. After last year, it's definitely a concern. I'm just hoping for the best because this team's going nowhere without DJ LeMahieu at the top of the lineup doing his thing. That's the truth. We desperately need him to set the table for Judge, Stan, and Rizzo, and that's just what it is. So you just saw what the team was like in the playoffs without DJ LeMahieu last year. Garbage. They need him, man. So we have to hope that he's going to be okay. I'm going to trust that he's going to be okay. But, yeah, I think you're right, Tats. I think that's why you're going to probably see him maybe be rested at like a day game after a night game. I think they're going to try and try that for a little while until he's fully healthy. Luckily, it's not a foot thing. Luckily, it's not a toe thing. It's not like he's re-aggravated any injury from last year. So I think the one that he's got right now is a matter of rest, and I think he'll be totally fine. But listen, it's worth paying attention to, and from a guy who's been incredibly healthy through most of his career, since signing his extension with the Yankees, he's starting to get hurt more, and it's something to pay attention to. But it doesn't change the fact that he's so important to the way this team.
Yeah, before Rob chimes in, let's also acknowledge that Rob called this yesterday on the show saying that something was wrong. So let's give Rob credit for seeing into the future because we were trying to figure out why he wasn't in the lineup as often. And Rob, he's like, maybe he's got a little something nagging going on, and Rob is spot on. So, Rob, are you that concerned?
No, because if they found it out quickly and immediately sat him, and they said he was available to pinch hit if necessary. And the same thing with Glaber. He pinch ran late in the game, so I think he's going to be okay also. So I don't want them to rush him back, though. It's still far too early. I don't care if we're 4 games back in the standings to Tampa Bay. You need DJ healthy in October.
Yeah.
So if he has to sit a few games in a row in April so that he's ready to go for June, July, August, September into October, then so be it. I don't want this to be a thing where they play him today, be like, okay, he says he's fine. Then all of a sudden he pulls it again and he can't walk and he's out for a month and a half because then it's going to be difficult to get into a rhythm. Even if he comes back in the early part of June, like you got to get hot again and get back into the swing of things, play minor league rehab games. I don't want that happening. I just want him healthy when we need him most. So if he has to sit a few games against Minnesota, maybe he sits tonight and tomorrow, and then he's ready to go. If that's what you need to do, then do it. Because we saw yesterday that we have enough, and if Torres is back, we can put Ozzy at third if we have to, or even IKF at third, because his defense is fine. I think they can make it work for a couple of days. I'm not too concerned. I'm glad they got on top of it quickly and said, let's sit you, and before this becomes a big issue. So I'm glad that they're not lying to us at least.
Yeah, Chris, you can get one of these mugs. You got the Pinstripe Chronicles coffee mug. We have tumblers available. Rob's got one. And just send me a DM and we'll square it all out. The tumblers are $30, the mugs are $20. And so just send me a message. We'll get all the ordering done and we'll get one over to you. No, I think it's going to. I really think that it's just going to be an issue of giving these guys the rest days as early and as often as they can, because you want them. You want them healthy in the later parts of the season, because that's where we fell short. Not having LeMahieu, not having Benintendi when he was on the roster, going into the postseason, not having a healthy Carpenter. I think that was part of the reasons why our postseason was derailed. So if they're able to get these guys off their feet here and now, it's really just gonna. There's no way it's gonna hurt in the long term. It may suck to see some of these bench players in a series, but for the long game, I think it's going to be beneficial, especially when you have a lot of these guys that are so interchangeable with positions. We're gonna see a lot more rest days for players. I think more so than we've ever seen. And I'm just hoping that this is a formula that's going to pay off for us. It's still early to see.
And it's their never changing philosophy of resting guys in April and hope that they're healthy come October. However, we've seen in the past that players can get hurt in July. It's like the Yankees forget that there's more months in the season. So I would rather them just play the best players until they need a day off, like until they start struggling. Like the other day when they sat DJ to start this Cleveland series, I wasn't too upset because he had been one for his last 9. So I'm like, okay, give him a day off. That's fine. But I don't like the whole, well, we need to get Aaron Hicks some at bat, so we're going to sit Aaron Judge. That's stupid. You don't need to give him at bats. You don't need to give IK
D-Rod says, how can the league take away the ability to protest a game? WTF. Just take it, even if we are wrong. Yeah, that's some BS. Like I said, us winning saves the ump/MLB. Do you want to touch on that again? Rob?
The umpiring or the protesting thing is weird. I don't know why they take that. I mean, what happens in a protest anyway? Honestly, even if the game is played under protest, did it change anything? Nothing really gets changed. It just kind of give you some half-assed apology and it's like, well, we got the call wrong. You're right. But at the end of the day, had we lost the game, it still would have been an L.
Yeah.
So I don't know what protesting would have really done. So I'm not too upset about that.
Yeah, the only game I ever remember protesting actually making an impact was the George Brett game. Where they changed where they adjusted the win-loss column. Other than that, I don't think the protesting really does anything except for they just completely review the game to see if anything what did go wrong, what did go right. I don't think protesting really does anything. So if they're not allowed to protest, is it really that big of a deal?
And what was you guys' immediate reaction to what was happening, what was unfolding in front of you with the Aaron Boone and ejection and the umpire kind of making their own rules? What were you guys' instant thoughts?
Confusion. I don't think anybody knew what was going on. So when they're stopping for those reasons, I think what they should do is announce what they're looking at. Especially some of these, is it the runner at second against the runner at first? Like we had that double play that it didn't, that was questionable for us. The series, I think it was in the I forget what series it was, and we were like, all right, well, it didn't really look like his foot was on second base, but what were they looking at? I think that needs to be clarified before they even start the process. All right, we're going to be looking at whether the ball was in the glove first before it touched the grass, like all that type of thing. I think that they need to do more of explaining why they're looking at it, and then at the end, what made them keep the call or overturn it.
Yeah, it's clear that they made it up as they go along because Francona did not challenge the call within 15 seconds. he didn't challenge anything until he saw it on the video replay. Until he saw it on the big board, and then he pointed to it. And I think that's when the umpires. I think what the umpires did was they saw it. I don't think they paid attention to Franco. I think they saw it and they were like, "Oh shit, this is gonna look bad on us. We might get fined. We're gonna lose our jobs. So how about we just, how about we just say that he challenged, and then make it up? Like you can't do that. Obviously, you cannot do that. And Aaron Boone was 100% right to go after them. And dude, Boone didn't let it slide either. He came back for 4s, 5th, 6th, 7th helpings. He just kept going at him. He would go away, then he'd come back, and go away, then come back again. But it was good because he was protecting his team. He was protecting his guys, and I like to see that from my manager. And in this instance, he was 100% right, even though all my blame still goes to Aaron Hicks. I still love the fact that Aaron Boone was protecting his guys, and Aaron Boone was absolutely right. The fact that umpires can't just make up a challenge that did not exist. Francona did not challenge at all. So that's wrong, 100% wrong. And the fact that the Yankees overcame that adversity is great. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
I actually was laughing at the fact that baseball is trying to speed up the game so much, and once again, it's the terrible umpires that slow it down. Mm-hmm. Because we haven't really had much issues so far. There's been a couple of pitch clock violations and batter violations, but that's to be expected with these new rules. But it's the umpires being stupid as usual that once again, here comes the slowdown. We had this. I'm sitting there. I was working. And I'm looking at the game day. I'm like, why has the inning not started yet? Why has the next inning not started yet? And then I look on Twitter and I see that people are going crazy. Like, how could you challenge that? The inning's over. And I see the video of Boone going in on the umpire. I'm like, what happened? And then I realized what was going on. It's the umpires once again having to take over the game. So I find it great that baseball wants to speed up the process so much, but they still have these morons employed as umpires that are just making rules up as they go. They don't even know the rules yet. So how do you expect the players to know the rules so quickly? Yeah. Of course the players are going to mess up. The umpires don't even have that. That happened again with I don't know exactly when, but Chicago had an instance where Tim Anderson got thrown out of a game by the umpire because he thought he was yelling at the ump when he was yelling at the pitcher because they didn't make eye contact. They called Anderson for a violation. And Anderson's whole argument was he didn't make eye contact with me. That's the whole Max Scherzer thing because of quick pitching. And I think Wandy Peralta had a big part of that in the spring as well. And the umpires don't even know the rules. So, of course, these things are going to happen because you got to let them know first. They have to be the first ones to know. This way, when things do happen, they're getting it right. Yesterday, they didn't get it right. They got the call right, but they didn't follow the rules correctly.
That's right. That's Let's touch on Ozzie, the great Oz, for the game-winning RBI.
No, I think we're starting to see Cabrera get into his rhythm. He's starting to put a lot better at bats together. I think this night, this Minnesota series, I think he's going to go on a tear. You could see it building up. You really can. And yeah, after we sign off, jump over to Yanks Morning Brew because TC Steels will be co-hosting with our boy Hector. And nice. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of things to go even deeper into and keep the conversation going. But no, I'm expecting a big series against Minnesota from Ozzie.
I love Ozzie, man. I love Ozzie's swing. I love Ozzie's approach. I love that Ozzie's clutch. That's a clutch hit.
Yeah,
and the kind of quality wood that he got on that ball just shows like, yeah, man. And that is not an easy guy to hit off of. He's a really good pitcher, and Ozzie had no problem. He was right on top of it, destroyed the baseball. So yeah, man. Like, I think it's an awesome at bat. The fact that he's so young, this is only his sophomore year. And he's delivering this kind of quality at bat and this approach. And he wasn't necessarily our heralded prospect, but like he just seems undaunted by everything that the Yankees throw at him. Right field, left field, shortstop, third base. He does it all very smoothly. And offensively, he's an absolute monster. And so far of the three main prospects that we've had and seen, he's got the better bat from what I've seen. Well, from the jump anyway. So you gotta give him credit for that. I think he's an awesome prospect, and I really hope that he becomes our everyday left fielder. It's really exciting to see this guy.
Yeah, I think he needs to play every day with Volpe. That's the only way you're going to develop players in the major league level. You can't have them sit, then play, then sit, then play. They can't do what they did with Peraza because that did not help him at all because look what happened in the spring. He lost his spot to Volpe. So they have to play both these guys every day. And that's the only way you're going to see them get better and better. Cabrera has had a great start. He had a couple of rough games, but he had a really good spring that no one really talked about because of how good Volpe was. But he was fantastic and won the job in left. And the fact that he can play everywhere, he can play first if needed, he can play second, he can play third, he can play short, he can play left, right, and center. He's very versatile, so you've got to find a spot for him every single day because he has the knack for the clutch. We saw it last year. Yep. We saw it last year in the postseason. We saw it in the spring, and we're seeing it so far this year. Yesterday, that's a big hit, like you mentioned, against a really good pitcher. I mean, Clase is no joke. So Cabrera ripped that. And I thought it was gone, but the sun was very conveniently right on that spot of the field. I'm like, is that going over the wall or not? But big hit at big time. And I'm glad he's here, and I'm glad they're giving him a shot. Play him every day. I don't care where it is, just play him every day.
No, I also think it speaks for Cabrera because he did not have the hardest start to the season. And for him to be able to come through with a big hit like that in such a wacky game, I think it also, my big word for the day for some reason, I think he's got that focus in him where he's constantly keeping his head in the game. And that's what leads me to believe that Cabrera, it just might have been, the early start, little, jitters, in his sophomore year, but he's not going to let it become a complete sophomore slump. We're starting to see a lot more of what we expect out of him.
Well, I mean, what do you mean sophomore jitters? I mean, we only played just under 2 weeks of the season. You're talking as if we've been playing for 2 months. He's been really good for about half the games, hasn't he?
Yeah, he started. His first game was 0 for 4 with the 4 strikeouts, but since then he's had a couple of multi-hit games, 3 multi-hit games.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of up and down, but mostly up. I mean, his on base can be a little bit higher, but that he's right under 300 there. But he's hitting 286, really 10 for 35. He's already driven in 5 runs. I mean, the strikeouts are up a little bit, but so does everybody else in this lineup, so it's not a big deal to me. He's been fine. I think he's going to start drawing some more walks, and he's seeing the ball better. So he's been one of our better hitters overall so far this year. He's been great.
Absolutely.
Well, also, before we do close it up, just remember that Saturday we will be doing our play-by-play live on this channel. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you share it out. And, of course, give us a like. It'll help us in the algorithm. It'll help us grow. And we appreciate everybody that's been in the chat. D-Rod, FJ, TC, Chris, L.I. We'll even say thank you to you. It's just been
great chat today.
Hey, L.I. was nice today.
Actually, no, L.I. Yeah, I got to bring his chops a little bit.
Give L.I. a break for once.
L.I.'s been calm. I got to give him that.
He only had 1 trade proposal today, and that was for Amir Garrett, which I won't get into. But he's been fine today.
But also, make sure you jump over when we close out. Jump over to the Yanks Morning Brew, DC, and let's keep the Yankee conversations going throughout the day, and enjoy the game tonight. So, as always, wear your pinstripes your pride and play hard.